I fled with my pregnancy for 4 years, never expecting to run into my foster brother Diego late one night at the pediatric emergency room. I wore a mask. He didn't recognize me. His gaze first fell on the child in my arms. How old? 5, I lied. He touched Jesse's throat with a cotton swab, then gently pressed his abdomen twice, before turning back to his desk to write up the medical record. Mycoplasma pneumonia, nebulizer treatment and observation required. Halfway through writing, his pen tip paused. Where's the child's father? Didn't he come with you? He's dead, I said. His pen tip stopped on the medical record for 3 seconds. A detailed examination will take about 2 hours. He handed over the prescription, never once looking up at me again throughout the entire process. I took the slip, and the moment I turned to leave the examination room with Jesse in my arms, the nurse's voice drifted over clearly from behind. Mr. Diego, your fiancée just called to say she wants to change the bouquet for the engagement party the day after tomorrow to white bell flowers. Beyoncé engagement party. My arms suddenly tightened. Pulling Jesse closer, I buried my head and hurried toward the end of the corridor. The observation room had only one wall, lamplight, its warm yellow glow mingling with the smell of disinfectant. After Jesse was hooked up to the nebulizer and given medication, his burning body finally cooled down and he drifted off to sleep in a daze. I sat on the hard plastic chair beside him, staring at the white mist dispersing from the nebulizer. Jesse clutched my finger in his sleep. Who he resembled? Anyone who'd seen them could tell at a glance. His eyes, nose bridge, the curve of his lips, all carved from the same mold as Diego. So for these 4 years, I never brought him anywhere we might run into Diego's family. I kept this child hidden away completely. At 3:30 in the morning, Jesse's temperature returned to normal. I wrapped him tightly in his blanket, picked him up and headed out, passing through the emergency corridor. The examination room door was ajar. Diego was still inside. He leaned back in his chair with his eyes closed as if taking a brief rest. A cup of coffee sat on his desk with a photograph pressed beneath it. I didn't see clearly who was in the photo, and I didn't want to. I quickened my pace and rushed out of the hospital entrance. Next day, Jesse's fever was completely gone, his spirits much improved. He sat on the living room carpet assembling Legos. I changed clothes, preparing to leave when Raven's call came in. Miss Annie, the Thomas Group moved up the meeting. They want to see you at 9. Got it. I'm leaving now. I drove to the company and changed into a tailored ash gray suit and skirt. The person in the mirror bore no resemblance to the woman from last night. At the hospital, frantically registering with a child in her arms. Annie Smith, founder of Smith Medical Technology, with annual revenue of $230 million last year. No one in the entire company knew I had a son, and even fewer knew I'd been raised. For over a decade that I was once the person Diego cherished above all. In the conference room, 3 representatives from the Thomas Group had arrived, led by a man in his 40s. Miss Annie, we've heard so much about you. Our chairman places great importance on this collaboration, and would like to meet with you personally the day after tomorrow. Your chairman is that Kane Thomas? My hand holding the water glass didn't move an inch. Kane Thomas, Diego's father, the helmsman of the Thomas Group, and the man who years ago had slapped a check in front of me and told me to get out of the Thomas family, is Annie. Director Mason looked at me. I sat down my glass and uttered a single word, fine. I'll be there. That evening when I got home, Jesse had completely recovered, running around barefoot on the floor. After his bath, he lay in bed hugging his little astronaut doll. Mommy, that doctor yesterday was so gentle. My hand tucking in his blanket froze. Mommy, does he look like Daddy? Go to sleep peacefully, Jesse. I turned off the lamp. In the darkness, his breathing quickly became steady. And I sat by the bed for a long time without moving. Does he look like him? He is biological father. The day after tomorrow, Thomas Group headquarters, the 54th floor of a CBD office building. I wore a fitted black suit and skirt, my hair completely pinned up, full makeup applied, not to see anyone in particular, but as protocol for going into battle. Elevator reached the 54th floor. The receptionist LED'd me to a very large conference room. When the door opened, people were already seated inside. 3 people from Director Mason's side. A man who looked like legal counsel and a woman in her late 20s with long hair and delicate makeup wearing a beige tweed suit. When she saw me, she stood up politely. Miss Annie, hello. I'm Eve, Chairman Thomas's assistant. Mr. Thomas had something come up at the last minute and asked me to receive you first. Eve, the name the nurse had mentioned that night, Diego's fiancée. She didn't recognize me. We'd never met before. I was Diego's completely buried past, the stain the Thomas family never spoke of. Miss Eve, hello. I extended my hand. She gripped it lightly before letting go. Miss Annie is young and accomplished. Smith Medical has been very aggressive in the industry these past 2 years. Our Mr. Thomas has been paying close attention. You're too kind. After the pleasantries ended, we got down to business. Director Mason reported on the previously finalized cooperation framework. Eve took notes on the side, occasionally interjecting with questions. Her questions were all sharp and professional. She was definitely not just an empty-headed boss. After 40 minutes of discussion, her phone rang. Excuse me, I need to take this call. She walked out of the conference room. The door didn't close completely, and her voice drifted in from the corridor. Diego, I'm in a meeting at Thomas Group. Yeah, the high-end medical equipment company. Annie Smith, you know her, you don't? Okay, then let's go taste the menu tonight. The banquet menu still isn't finalized. Okay. Love you. I kept my head down, staring at the contract terms, reading word by word, but my fingertips were slightly white. Eve returned smiling as she sat down. Sorry, personal call. Let's continue. When the meeting ended, I stood to grab my bag and leave. Eve walked me to the elevator. Miss Annie, may I ask something presumptuous? Are you married? No. Do you have children? I looked at her. Miss Eve, does this question relate to our cooperation? No. Just curious. Women powerhouses like you are mostly single. The elevator arrived. I stepped in, unable to tell if she was asking casually or had already sensed something. Monday, there was trouble at the company. Miss Annie, Thomas Group responded. They're adamant about a 38% profit split. Raven's expression was terrible. The reason given is that Mr. Thomas personally said it, and they said if we don't agree, they'll turn around and work with our competitors. Competitors? There are no competitors in our sector. They mentioned a name, Carter Medical. I set down my pen. Carter Medical, a company established just 4 months ago. The founder was our former technical director who jumped ship, taking 3 core engineers with him. Their product was still in development and hadn't even obtained market authorization. Thomas Group was using a shell company without even a finished product to pressure me. They were bluffing. But what if they really invest? The offline channels in the East are too important to us. I thought for a moment. Set up a meeting with Kane Thomas for me. I'm done dealing with intermediaries. Are you sure you want to meet him directly at the negotiating table? I'm Annie Smith, founder of Smith Medical. Any other identity doesn't exist. Raven hesitated, then returned 5 minutes later. It's arranged. Wednesday afternoon, Thomas Group headquarters. Kane Thomas will see you personally. Good. Wednesday. I stood in the elevator on the 54th floor of Thomas Group headquarters, taking a deep breath. Kane Thomas. The last time I saw him was 5 years ago. Back then, I was still the Thomas family's adopted daughter, 23 years old. I didn't know how to apply sophisticated makeup or wear cotton dresses bought from Amazon. He sat on the leather sofa in the Thomas family living room, speaking to me across the coffee table. Annie Smith, Thomas family doesn't need an adopted daughter. Who doesn't know her place, much less one who has feelings for Diego? Here's $2 million. Take it. Sign the papers, get out of the Thomas family, and never come back. I didn't take that $2 million. I left. Only when I left was I already carrying a small life in my belly. Today's me wore a sharp suit with full presence, completely different from that timid girl of years past. Miss Annie, Mr. Thomas is waiting for you. Inside, by the floor-to-ceiling windows. A man around 60 stood talking on the phone. Kane Thomas hung up and turned around. Miss Annie, please sit. His eyes held scrutiny. 5 years had changed me too much. He wasn't certain, but his gaze told me he found me familiar. Mr. Thomas, our previous framework negotiation stalled on the profit split. I wanted to discuss it with you face to face. Miss Annie certainly gets straight to the point. He sat down. 38% was my decision. I have my considerations. What considerations? The value of Thomas Group's channels isn't just distribution. It's a complete after-sales system and technical training system. Factor in those costs, and 38% isn't high. Mr. Thomas, I've done my due diligence. 70% of Thomas Group's after-sales team is outsourced. A 38% split should correspond to a mature end-to-end system, not a half-built work in progress. He laughed. Very thorough homework. Cooperation requires mutual benefit. 33%. I can additionally provide completely free training support for the first batch of equipment, saving you labor costs. He stared at me for 10 seconds. Miss Annie, you remind me of someone. He called my name. He'd recognized me. I don't know if he recognized me that night in the examination room. But didn't expose me in front of the nurse, or if he only confirmed it later by checking medical records. It didn't matter anymore. So what if he recognized me, my child, and I don't need anything from him? For the follow-up, I'd switch to another hospital. I immediately called a pediatric director I knew well, scheduled for the next day at City Central Hospital. Definitely not Municipal Hospital. Definitely wouldn't see Diego. That evening, I was at home reviewing the final cooperation contract when the doorbell rang. The housekeeper went to answer it and soon returned. Miss Annie, someone at the door delivered a document envelope. They said it's from the hospital. In the waterproof envelope was a detailed lab report and a handwritten note. I recognized the handwriting. It was Diego's. He had the report delivered to my home. He knew my home address. It was in the medical record system. I put the report in a drawer, crumpled the note into a ball, and threw it in the trash. Then picked up my phone and sent him a text. Report received, already scheduled follow-up at another hospital. Please don't disturb my life again. I blocked him directly after. The examination at City Central Hospital, everything was normal, just a simple allergic constitution. I held Jesse's hand, walking down the steps at the hospital entrance. When suddenly a black Maybach smoothly stopped by the roadside. The black Maybach door opened, and Diego bent down and stepped out. He still wore Municipal Hospital's white coat, sleeves rolled to his elbows, exposing the clear veins on his forearms. His eyes were bloodshot. Clearly, he'd rushed over right after surgery. He'd been waiting outside the hospital for a full 3 hours. I yanked Jesse behind me, but Jesse poked his head out from my side, his round eyes brightening as he called out crisply, "Uncle Diego." Diego's gaze fell on the child's face, his Adam's apple rolling hard. Finally, he didn't look at the child. His eyes locked deadly on my face, voice hoarse like sandpaper. "I waited for you for 3 hours." I adjusted my mask, voice cold as ice. "Mr. Diego, you're overstepping. I've seen the child's follow-up results. Everything's normal. No need to trouble yourself." I pulled Jesse to leave. Diego stepped forward, steadily blocking my path. He didn't touch me, just stood half a step away, pulling a folded document from his white coat pocket and holding it before me. The document cover bore the logo of a forensic identification center. The moment I opened it, my blood ran cold. Paternity test report. The conclusion line spelled it out clearly in black and white, cumulative paternity index greater than 99.99% supporting Diego as Jesse's biological father. Diego's fingers tightened on the edge of the report. "I only needed one strand of hair," he said quietly. "The one Jesse left on the nebulizer mask." My heartbeat pounded in my ears. "What you did was illegal." "I know." His voice was low, exhausted. "If you want to sue me, I won't defend myself." He wasn't denying it. He wasn't making excuses. He only looked at Jesse. His son. Jesse blinked curiously between us. "Mommy, why is Uncle Diego crying?" I looked up. Only then did I notice the tears. Diego wasn't sobbing. They simply slid down his face silently, one after another. His lips trembled. 4 years. His voice broke. I missed 4 years. I grabbed Jesse's hand. The report changes nothing. It changes everything. It doesn't. I looked straight into his eyes. You were engaged. You had a fiancé. You had a perfect life. You lost the right to know the moment your family threw me away. Diego closed his eyes. I never knew. You expect me to believe that? I swear it. I laughed. The sound was cold. 5 years ago your father handed me $2 million. He told me to abort the baby. He told me I wasn't worthy of carrying a Thomas child. Diego's face lost every trace of color. What? He told me to disappear forever. I left that house with nothing. I was already 2 months pregnant. His breathing stopped. You. I never told anyone. You never gave me the chance. His knees seemed to weaken. He took half a step backward. I searched for you. I stared at him. You disappeared. I searched every city. I went to every university that had accepted you. I hired investigators. They all said you had vanished. I didn't know. His voice became hoarse. I didn't know you were carrying our baby. Jessie tugged gently at my sleeve. Mommy. I knelt beside him. What is it? The little boy pointed at Diego. Is he really my daddy? The world became silent. Cars passed. Leaves rustled. No one spoke. I had imagined this moment thousands of times. In every version. I denied it. I walked away. I protected us. But Jessie deserved the truth. More than anyone. I slowly nodded. Yes. His eyes widened. Then they sparkled. I have a daddy? He looked at Diego with pure excitement. I really have a daddy? Diego covered his mouth. He couldn't stop crying. He crouched until he was level with Jessie. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm late. Jessie tilted his little head. You got lost? Diego laughed through tears. Yeah. I got lost. The little boy reached out his tiny hand. Then don't get lost again. That sentence shattered the last wall inside Diego. He gently held Jessie's little hand as though it were the most precious treasure in the world. That night, Kane Thomas received a phone call. Dad. It was Diego. I know everything. Silence. I don't know what Annie told you. You don't need to. I've already read the surveillance footage from 5 years ago. You met her. You gave her a check. And you threatened her. Kane sighed. I did it for this family. No. Diego's voice was icy. You did it for yourself. You destroyed mine. There was a long silence. Then Diego spoke again. If you can't apologize to her, I'll resign from the Thomas Group. And from today onward, I'll no longer be your son. The call ended. 3 days later, Kane appeared alone at Annie's office. He looked older than she remembered. His back was no longer perfectly straight. He placed a thin folder on her desk. The shares that should have belonged to you when you left. I transferred them. I don't want them. They're yours. I said I don't want them. She pushed the folder back. The Annie who walked out of your house 5 years ago needed your money. The Annie sitting here today doesn't. Kane looked at the confident woman before him. For the first time. He bowed. A deep bow. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Annie watched him quietly. After a long time, she answered. I forgive you. But I won't forget. Eve was the one who cancelled the engagement. She visited Annie once before leaving for another country. I wondered why Diego never smiled when he was with me. She smiled bitterly. It turns out. He left his heart with someone else years ago. I'm glad I found out before the wedding. She stood. I hope the 3 of you will be happy. Annie sincerely replied. I hope you will be too. Diego didn't move into Annie's house. He didn't ask for another chance. Instead, he showed up every Saturday morning. Sometimes with breakfast. Sometimes with toy dinosaurs. Sometimes with absolutely nothing except himself. He earned Jessie's trust one weekend at a time. One bedtime story. One soccer game. One school pickup. Whenever Jessie called out Daddy, Diego answered every single time. Never once missing it again. Half a year later. Jessie's kindergarten held family day. Children ran everywhere holding balloons. One teacher smiled. Jessie, where are your parents? The little boy proudly grabbed one hand with each of his own. This is my mommy. This is my daddy. And they're both the coolest. Annie and Diego exchanged a glance. Neither of them spoke. After the event ended, Jessie fell asleep in the back seat of the car. The city lights reflected across the windshield. Diego finally broke the silence. Can I ask you one question? What? Is there still a chance for us? Annie looked out the window. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she reached across the center console. Not to hug him. Not yet. She simply took his hand. I won't go back to who we were. Her fingers intertwined with his. But we can see whether we can become someone better. Diego smiled. It was the first carefree smile he had worn in years. He squeezed her hand gently. This time, he whispered, I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. 1 year later, there was no extravagant wedding. No media. No lavish banquet. Only a small garden filled with white bellflowers, the flowers that had once been chosen for a different engagement, now blooming for the right one. Jessie stood proudly between them in a tiny suit, carrying the rings. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Jessie raised his hand. The guests gasped. He grinned mischievously. I object. A long pause. To Mommy and Daddy not kissing yet. Laughter erupted through the garden. Even Cain laughed, wiping away tears. Diego looked at Annie. This time, he asked softly, will you stay? Annie smiled, the weight of 5 painful years finally lifting from her heart. I already came home. As they kissed beneath the bellflowers, Jessie cheered louder than anyone else. The past could never be erased, but it no longer ruled them. What defined them now was not the years they had lost, but every ordinary day